Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the ChitChat. I'm Jeremy Roberts with Rebekah Reysen, and our special guest, Miss Emmy Parkes from the Department of Nutrition and Hospitality Management here at the University of Mississippi. Emmy Parkes is a registered dietitian nutritionist and director of the didactic program in dietetics here at Ole Miss. She received a Bachelor's of Science in Family and Consumer Sciences from the University of Mississippi and a Master of Science in Human Nutrition from the University of Southern Mississippi. She worked at the University of Mississippi Medical Center as an outpatient clinical dietitian and as the program manager of a diabetes education program in the Mississippi Delta. 2008, she moved back to the university and became an instructor in the Department of Nutrition and Hospitality Management here at the University of Mississippi. She currently serves as a DPD director and a member of the Interprofessional Education Advisory Board. Emmy Parkes, welcome to the Chit Chat.
Thank you.
We are so glad that you are here with us today.
It's very nice to see you. And yes, thank you for joining us. And so let's just start off with talking about you. Tell us about yourself and what brought you into the field of dietetics and nutrition.
Okay. Well, I actually started out as a biology major. I've always been interested in kind of anatomy, physiology, how the body works. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do as a career. And so, like a lot of people, I just declared biology as my major because that was an option. And I didn't really even know that registered dietitians existed. And my sophomore year of college, I was in a physiology class where my teacher was talking about how snakes hear, and I was not very excited about that at all. But the girl that lived across the hall from me was in a nutrition class, and she was learning the coolest things. Like, she was learning that, like, your fingernails can show, like, whether you have a nutrient deficiency or not. And I thought that was absolutely fascinating. And I was like, that's what I want to learn about. And so I changed my major to dietetics, and I obviously have been with it ever since.
Oh, wow. So how does one become a registered dietitian? I'm interested in learning more about that.
Right. Well, you have to have at least a bachelor's degree right now. In 2024, you're going to have at least a master's degree. So the field is sort of in a little transition stage right now. But you have to have at least the bachelor's or master's degree. You also have to have at least 1,200 hours of supervised practice. And right now, a lot of that supervised practice is housed within master's programs. So I would say especially if you're a freshman or sophomore who's interested in becoming a registered dietitian, you should probably plan on having a master's degree. Even if you don't technically have to, usually the supervised practice programs are going to be housed within a master's program. But the supervised practice, basically you just work underneath a dietitian. You do different rotations, you go over all the different areas of dietetics, and you just learn kind of entry-level things. And then after you've completed that, you are eligible to take a national exam that would reward you with the credential of registered dietitian nutritionist when you complete the exam.
Okay. So as the program director, you wear many hats. And one of those hats is talking about the uniqueness of the dietetic program here at the University of Mississippi. So I remember from being in hospitality management, the departments or hospitality and dietetics go hand in hand. But what makes the Ole Miss program so unique that we're seeing more and more students want to learn about dietetics?
Well, I think to answer your question, there's going to be two parts there. So I'll first talk about our accredited program. So we have an accredited didactic program in dietetics, which means that you learn the things that you need to do to go straight into a supervised practice program, however that is housed. And across the board, any Ascend accredited program, didactic program, they're going to all have very similar things that they have to meet. So the things that make us unique here is really the specialty areas of the faculty. So we have one faculty member that specializes in sports nutrition. We have another faculty member that specializes in child nutrition. this specifically school nutrition. She does research with school nutrition. We have a couple of people who do a lot of community work and health and wellness. So we have a unique set of faculty that gives a unique perspective to that information that you're learning in any didactic program. So that's the accredited piece. That's the track for people who want to go into dietetics as a career. But another thing that makes our program unique is that we do have tracks for people who are interested in other healthcare professions. And so you don't have to join or declare the major of nutrition and dietetics, and you don't have to go into dietetics as a career. We have a lot of people who declare the major and go to nursing school. We have more and more people who are going to PA school. We have a few people who want to go to med school. We've had one person go to dental school. So a lot of people use our degree as kind of a jumping off point into another healthcare career. And that is definitely something that makes us unique.
And talking about those new tracks, what attracts somebody to want to do that? So like if I'm a student here at the University of Mississippi and I'm thinking about dietetics, but then they've got the different tracks to go down, could you talk to us a little bit more about those individual specializations that y'all just put into practice a few years ago and how you've seen the program grow from that?
Right. Well, really, we started doing this. We kind of developed these tracks because we saw a need for it with our student population. So we were just kind of getting a lot of people who didn't want to go into dietetics as a career, but who were really interested in the field of nutrition. So they were interested in some of the same things that brought me into nutrition, right. About, doing the physical exam on people and just learning about how nutrients, how food reacts in your body. And so we had a lot of people who were doing that, but didn't necessarily want to go down that career path of becoming a registered dietitian. And so we decided that we would kind of tailor a program for them. One of the things that we noticed was that they were having to take a lot of extra hours. And sometimes it was adding extra semesters onto their degree program, because they had other prerequisites they had to take to get into the program or the career path that they were really going into. And so we sat down and looked at our curriculum, and we asked ourselves, what things in the curriculum does a physician assistant absolutely not need? And what we basically identified was food service management classes. So registered dietitian nutritionists are the food nutrition experts. And so we know about how everything acts in the body, but another important piece of being a food nutrition expert is knowing how to write menus, knowing how to run a food service management operation, knowing how to do purchasing orders for large, operations like a nursing home or a hospital or whatever. But those are pieces of information that doesn't really translate well into a career in nursing. Right. Whereas understanding how, diet affects diabetes is something that directly affects nurses and is very good for nurses to know. So basically what we did is we cut out a lot of those food service management classes from the curriculum and added in a suggestion basically to have a minor. And that's how we created the health sciences emphasis area. Okay. So it really allowed someone to tailor their own kind of college experience based on what their career goals are. Okay. At the same time, we created a child nutrition track, which is kind of more specifically a school nutrition track. And that is for people who want to go into school nutrition or early childhood education. They would specialize in those particular types of food service management operations. This is going to be really good for people who might be returning to school, who are already in that profession and just want to improve their education, and maybe they don't already have a bachelor's degree and they want to complete a bachelor's degree. That track is great for those people.
Okay. So speaking of nutrition, such an important area. And it's always looked at in terms of the media as there's this great diet here, or this, everyone should be on the cabbage food or cabbage soup diet, or, there's 8 million different things that are advertised, which of course can make a lot of money for the businesses that are advertising those particular plans and nutrition and things like that. So, in terms of what is promoted online and what we should really be focused on, what kind of advice do you have, for what we really should focus on in terms of our health and well-being?
The really simple answer is usually eat more fruits and vegetables and whole grains. That is going to work for most people. Now, obviously, there's going to be some people who it doesn't work for, but for most people, eating more fruits and vegetables and whole grains is going to be the best diet advice that they can have. Now, there are definitely things that you can do to incorporate more fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. So it's not as simple as it sounds. But one of the things that we see online, a lot of times people are cherry picking the evidence. And so dietetics is an evidence-based practice. It is an evidence-based field, just like medicine is an evidence-based field. And even when we talk about evidence, we're not talking about one single study. We're talking about repeated studies. We're talking about things that have stood the test of time as far as recommendations. And the more fruits and vegetables and more whole grains has stood the test of time. A lot of what you see online is people cherry picking some information or using a study that was done in animals to say, hey, we're going to throw this thing in a product and try to sell a product. So it's a big red flag if somebody's trying to sell you a product or try to sell something to you. That's usually a red flag. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are absolutely wrong, but it does mean you need to look a little bit more critically at that person and at what they're saying. You also see a lot of people online who are promoting what works for them, and that's great. Whatever they did worked for them, and that's great. They've clearly improved their health. A lot of times they'll say, oh, I did this, so they clearly improved their health and that worked for them, but they don't know what works for everybody. And a lot of times they'll try to sell services based on what worked for them. And it can actually be dangerous if they don't have the background and know the medical side of things and understand how to accurately assess a person and what a person needs from a nutrition standpoint. What worked for them could actually be dangerous for another person. And so that's something to watch out for too online. There are a lot of dietitians, registered dietitians, that have an online or media presence. I was going to can I throw out a couple of my favorites?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. I really like the podcast Body Kindness by Rebekah. She is a registered dietitian and she does excellent job with that podcast. So I really love that. And then there's actually a Mississippi dietitian that I like. I've used some of her videos in my class, and she has some really good blogs too. It's Rebekah Turner. She's been on talk radio a little bit, so you may know her as kind of almost a radio personality, but she has great evidence-based practical advice, and so you can go to RebekahTurnerNutrition.com and see some of her stuff as well. So there's definitely good information out there. You just have to know where, what to look for.
Right.
Looking for a registered dietitian credential is a very good sign that you're getting good evidence-based information.
So what would those credentials be? Like, what do we need to look for? So like after your name, your RDN,
right.
Is that what we need to be looking for?
Yes, RD or RDN. We had, that's kind of a funny story. We needed to put nutrition in our credential because we had so many people who were just slapping nutrition into things and saying that they were an expert. And so it's been a number of years now, I want to say 7 or 8 years now. Our credentialing agency, the Commission on Dietetic Registration, gave us the option to use registered dietitian nutritionist or registered dietitian as our credential. So I think most people have tried to go over to RDN. I know I've tried to go over to RDN, but I called myself an RD for so many years, it still sometimes almost
Right.
habit. Sometimes I'll say RD or registered dietitian, but RD or RDN are the two credentials that you want to look for.
Okay. And so you've been through the program here at Ole Miss. You now lead the program here at Ole Miss. So what advice do you have for students who, just like you were in a biology class and you were not happy with what was going on? If a student wants to learn more about the program, or a graduate student wants to learn about our supervised program here at the university, what advice do you have for them?
I'd say just maybe come talk to us and see if it's a good fit for you. There's a number of us who have held almost different careers even within nutrition. We've done very different things, and so you can kind of say, well, you know, I would really like to be in a hospital, or I would really like not to be in a hospital. And so there's somebody here that can talk to you. We really like to talk to you about your career later. And what you want to do. And so, so just come talk to us if you're interested. We do have a coordinated program at the graduate level that does not require an undergraduate degree in nutrition. You do have to get a number of prerequisites that are housed within our undergraduate degree. But you don't have to have that undergraduate degree to get into our master's program. So if you're, a year away from finishing and you don't want to completely change your major, we might be able to work with you just to take a couple of extra nutrition classes during your senior year, and then you would be eligible to move into our master's program. Our master's program or coordinated program is where our supervised practice is housed. So it provides the kind of the didactic knowledge, so the book and classroom knowledge, but it also provides the supervised practice. And so that is where the supervised practice component or requirement for registered dietitians are housed here at the University of Mississippi.
That's great. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we move on to the lightning round?
Ooh, let's see. You know what? I think I would just say that I think dietetics is a very rewarding field to go into. And a lot of us, I think, go into the field and we want to talk to patients, but you don't even have to talk to patients. Sometimes you can do, nutrition support and you're working with patients who are on a ventilator who can't even talk to you. But you can often see real-time changes in a person. So you can change the formula that a person is on if they're on the ventilator, or you can just do some simple education with a person who has diabetes. And when they come back and see you, when you do your follow-up, you can see real-time changes. You can see that person has benefited from what you've done. So it is a very rewarding field. And if you're interested, come talk to me.
Excellent. Well, that's great. And so in terms of the lightning round, which we're always super pumped about asking people about too, because we get to know you a little bit more as a person and your background. So lightning question number 1, has there been someone in particular, or maybe multiple people, who've really influenced your career development?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yes, I would say, obviously, I credit my friend that lived across the hall from me. She, Ginger Hogue was her name, and then I can't remember her last name now. I'm blanking out on it, but I can't remember her married name. But anyway, I credit her with kind of getting me started on the whole pathway. Dr. Kathy Knight, who is actually still a faculty member in our department. I can remember the day that I went to Dr. Knight and said, I think I might want to be a registered dietitian. What do I have to do? And she actually went through everything with me and said, okay, this is what you're going to have to do. And so I can still remember that day. So she made a huge impact on me. My internship director from Southern Mississippi, Ruth Ann Broom, huge impact, taught me a lot of what I know in terms of practical stuff, because, I was coming out of a didactic program, which is mostly classroom. And so she really taught me how to apply a lot of the things that I had learned in undergrad. So yeah, so those would be the probably the 3 big ones that influenced me, especially really early on.
Well, so mentorship and friendship and having great colleagues, it's so important in terms of career development. And now in terms of your freshman year of college. Tell us about that. What was that?
My freshman year. Oh, right, that was my biology major. I will tell you, I tell my classes this, and so I will be perfectly honest with you guys. I had no idea how to study when I was a freshman, and I got by the skin of my teeth. I'm talking, I was so happy for a C. And I was a straight A student in high school, and I was so happy for my C in biology 160 that you just don't know how happy I was to finally get that. And I have to say, I didn't get that C. I just got it by pure luck almost. Because I just didn't know how to study. So I read those chapters. I attended every single class, and I thought I took notes, but I just was not doing it in a very effective way at all. And so I think I would have had a much less stressful freshman year if I had you guys, because I actually sent my freshmen to you guys. If I had somebody like you sitting down with me and saying, okay, you're reading this, but you're not retaining half of what's in it. You need to, this is a better way to read this. This is a better way to take notes. This is what you should be doing when you're listening in class. If I had had somebody that could have coached me on that, I would have had such a better freshman year, much better sophomore year, much better junior year. By junior year, I was starting to kind of learn a little bit, but I mean, I really, really struggled with the learning how to study, partly because I just didn't have to do it in high school.
Mm-hmm. I think that's such a good point, you know, and it's I think so hard for students to realize that it's okay to ask questions, you know, and it's okay to not know the answers. I mean, I didn't honestly know what a Cornell note was until I got this position, and I learned so much about it. It's like you said, you know, what works, what doesn't work. And so I appreciate you mentioning our services, because we definitely love to help students out as much as we can. So that is great. Well, we definitely appreciate you being here, and thanks for all that you do. This is such an important area, and certainly you're a great mentor to your students, and anything we can do to help, you know, support your students, feel free to let us know. But I'm Rebekah Reysen with Jeremy Roberts, so thanks again, Emmy, for joining us, and we'll see you next week on the Chit Chat. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.